don't compare yourself to the top players in your niche, but compare yourself to yourself from the past. We all start from different places. We all have different abilities. Someone want to be better with copy, someone will be better with image design, with pure technical knowledge. But you have to find the way to measure your success based on metrics that you define for your goals, right? That we
Welcome back, listener, to another exciting episode. In this episode, we will talk about software engineering and generative AI. And to talk about this, we have software engineer of Amazon. A warm welcome to Alex and tell us about yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Alex. Super glad to be here. Yes, I'm currently working in search and personalization at Amazon, mostly on the front end side of things, but we're collaborating a lot with ML teams across the globe to deliver features. I've been on Amazon right now for 3 years. It's been a while, and I really enjoyed my time here. I on the side of my job also enjoy doing creative coding in the weekend, learning about front end system design, AI, and I know these things really don't like plug into each other that much, but I'm really curious and I love to learn about new things. Um, and yeah, system design is what makes system like beyond certain scale evolve, and front end is literally how customers see the things, which I love. So that's why I always have these kind of areas of interest. And now AI and what happened with ChatGPT last year, and already started a bit before, it's enabled us to go faster and devs to produce things faster. So we'll touch base on that later, but I'm really excited to be doing this. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that is great. You have like such a great experience. Plus, like, I also like love studying and working on the system design aspect and all these things. Tell us about like your technical journey. Obviously, right now you're working in Amazon, but like before that, how you land your job in Amazon. This is the most important aspect.
Yes, that's true. It's been a long ride, and I started actually going to engineering school after high school. I was really motivated about finance at first. I was like, I love math, I love all that stuff, so I would probably love engineering, right? But in fact, I didn't really. I discovered coding, I think, in my second or third year in university, and I didn't really like it at first. We started with C sharp. I was like, what the hell is this? But yeah, like in the end, it really stick to it. And I think I had two great friends that influenced that, Nicholas and Mark, that I want to quote here. And I basically started going all in into software engineering. And my school at that point was more, it had a career track on like data science and also more on cybersecurity, but not really software engineering core. So
Yeah.
from that, we went, the three of us, to California to do an US exchange, and it was amazing. Basically, there we learned and we had a lot of classes about software engineering. I remember C++, data structures, and algorithm advanced. It was at the same time super hard, but at the same time super rewarding. And this is where I really got the feeling into, my God, I really want to do this as my career. And I think it's really important to have these kind of moments, because when you're a student, you expect to know where you want to go, but the reality is most of us won't, and it's normal, right? You're young and you need to like learn and figure out what you want to do. And this really was the switch moment. At that moment, we also developed an app with my two friends to organize events and get all the scheduling around those things. So we really had that mindset already of building stuff and trying to not just stick, to courses, and but also like build a couple of stuff on the side and enjoy from there. From my exchange there in the US, I decided to apply to a lot of companies. I got my first internship in Amazon, which I was really proud of. And from there, it kind of roll. I still had 1 year university, so I went back to university, and then I went back again to Amazon for a second year internship. I learned about a bunch of stuff. I didn't know about AWS at that time or how it worked. I knew the name, of course, but it was super new to me. I learned about all of that CDK, how to do infrastructure as code, and of course how to operate at the scale of a large tech company. So I got hired after the second internship, where I learned a bunch of other stuff like scaling, Spark, and big data technologies, Scala, and all that. So I got hired after that, And I think I have here a first learning I wanted to share on the internship side, because I know there's a lot of like discussions about internships and jobs and everything, is that leadership principles, the things we love at Amazon, are a real thing. And being an intern is basically being an SDE without like all the maybe processors or meetings that you have around, but you are the person that can influence, and you have value because you have all the coverage. You're like there for 3 or 5 months, and you can influence, you can build stuff, you can prove that you have value, you can deliver value, and that's super nice to know that being an intern, you can still deliver a lot of value, right? So yeah, I think that would be a bit my experience on the internships and then transition to a full-time job.
Yeah, that is great. And like obviously you have that spark and you wanted to do something. That's why obviously in that internship period, a lot of people are thinking that okay, we go there, we learn some stuff, we are actually delivering zero value to the company and we are
No,
just like taking in like from all the senior guys. But it is not the case, like as it has happened with you, that you have chosen that career path. And obviously in that internship period, that obviously they see that you have a spark and you are like making comments and you are contributing to the company a greater goal as
yep,
well. So that is very important thing for all the young guys listening to us, that you have to understand that like once you are selected for the internship program, it doesn't matter like which company, just try to also deliver value for the company as well.
yep, exactly.
And there's this one thing that you mentioned in the start, that like once you started coding, that you have no idea what the heck it is, right? Like C++. Exactly the same thing happened with me when I was in the first semester. And there was this, we are doing coding in Java, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and then in my first lab paper, it was obviously like we have to code something. And I remember like I was completely clueless and I was looking out right left like how to actually build this thing. It is so hard. And actually like 80% of the people in my class has done the work properly. So I was in that
yeah,
20% who didn't knew how to do it and get like, I don't know, 4 or 5 out of 10. So I was like very bad at it. And I was thinking like how they are doing it. Like, in the start,
yeah,
it feels very gibberish. Like you don't know. And this thing is like, I will never get good at it, right? But this is something for all the young guys. Like in the start, like everybody feel the same. Now I know maybe more than 10 languages, like databases, maybe 20,
yeah,
25. Like I have done like a lot of work. Like I have also like written a book on system design. So,
yeah,
but like in this book, I have touched like a lot of things. But in the start, I was also feeling like the way you guys are feeling, like completely clueless, didn't know how to
yeah.
do stuff. So this is something very normal.
Yeah, totally. And I remember you mentioned that it's super funny because we started in C sharp, and now retrospectively, I starting in Java would have been way more better because it's just used everywhere. And even though there can be similar in syntax, and they kind of like interact in a way, but it would have been so much better because most of the big tech company we use that, and like it's just so much use. So I totally connect with you on that part, and I was the same as you. I was like, how the hell is that person coding that? What does that mean? How compiling? What is that? And so I think one piece here, it really relates to that and really connect to that quote. It is always day one, and there's always room for you to grow if you want to take it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the main thing here. And from that, from my experience to finish on that, I got hired November 2021, no 2022. And I was actually hired the day of my birthday. Fun fact. So every
Oh,
time I
that
celebrate a
is,
year, it's like two celebrations.
yeah.
I got promoted to SD2 1 year, a bit less than 1 year and a half after being SD1. I worked on larger scale projects, mostly on search experience, how things display on the website, how customer likes certain experiences and stuff. But yeah, it was more of a growth in impact. And now I joined 1 year ago this team on search personalization. And yeah, I've been doing way more code as well on SD2. And at that level, you're expected to be the owner of your features, of your deliverables across teams as well, and collaborate with other teams. So yeah, pretty happy to be where I am, and I'm
Yeah.
not planning to stop there.
Yeah, that is very good. And like, can you also specify that part, that like obviously in these big tech companies, they don't have like hardwire technologies that they will use for a specific use case, they might also choose a certain language that is not already in their stack. So can you tell us about
Yeah.
that, like some of your experience, like for this thing, like you have worked on different technologies like while staying at Amazon?
The choices of technologies, like there is not a one technology where we will do like, oh, this has to be done with X, or this needs to be solved by Y, or by a certain specific framework or stuff. So you're really open to choose. There's of course a set of preferred languages like in other big tech companies, but they are not like restrictive, and you have the liberty to choose what you want to solve a problem with, because in the end we'll come to that as well. But in the end, like, us software engineers were problem solvers at first, and not like just choosing a language, doing something with it, and that's it. Of course, when it comes to performance and to optimize it for certain stuff, those trade-offs make sense, right? You wouldn't choose, I don't know, Python for something that needs a high multi-threaded environment and concurrency or something like that. You wouldn't choose Java for front end, right? So that's
Yeah.
logical technological choices, but there is no like restrictions, and teams adapt to what they want to use. It mainly depends on what is the stack that you have already on the application you're working, or if you're building it from scratch, then you're even more free to choose whatever you want.
Yeah, that is good. That is good. So it's all basically based on the requirements. So in that requirement, if you feel like, okay, Go is the right choice, or like you go with Rust, like right now, like there's a lot of
Yeah,
talking about Rust because you can do memory management and a lot of things, like you can optimize that garbage thing that you have, like you can make it more faster. So yeah, that is good to know. And for all the listener that it's not like you know one language, you know, like
yeah,
Node.js with Express, and you're like everything I'm going to do rest of my life is will be like
no,
an Express. This is not like how to go ahead in this software engineering lifestyle. Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, the next thing I want to ask from you is that what was the inspiration behind starting your own newsletter, The Hungry Minds, and it is like a very good one. Like I have read like a lot of your blog posts. So tell us about that.
Yeah, thanks a lot for mentioning it. Hungry Minds. Yeah, I always wanted to start a newsletter. I think I was one of the first reader of TLDR, Tech, and all this, the ones that started after that known massive success. But I always wanted to start a newsletter, but I never had the capacity or the will to it, knowing where I was. Like, I was a student, you have a bunch of exams, bunch of interviews coming up, a lot of things in your life as well, because you enjoy with your family, your friends, and all of that. So I knew that it was hard to be consistent on posting daily,
Yeah.
or at well weekly. And a couple of months ago, I realized that I had a good job. I am still progressing. I'm still pushing forward, but it was maybe the right moment to start that. And it's been something I've been just having hanging around there. So it's literally like I realized that I should turn the problem around and write what I learned about, and publish that as a newsletter. And instead of daily delaying and being like, oh, I'm gonna do it when I'm gonna be 40 or something like that. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, Hungry Minds started in June last year, 2023. We're grown to 3,000 something subscribers as of a couple of days ago. I also have like a community on LinkedIn of 30k people. I'm also having Twitter in parallel, but it's hard to allocate time to all of them. So I prioritize a bit LinkedIn these days. But yeah, I want it to be the place for software engineers to have created content for what interests them, with different sections per interest, right? So section maybe on how to start a week on the right foot, to have a quote and a meme in every issue. On Mondays, a section on creative deep dives on software engineering architecture, tools, interesting picks. I have this section on this kind of stuff. I have
Yeah.
a section as well on news, trends in software engineering and AI, the stuff that I follow that I find interesting, and broadcast it that way. I also recently a new section on job boards that I'm still working on because it's a bit small right now, but it's growing too. And one on coding challenges that I found really interesting from another newsletter. So on that, what I want to have and what I have as a vision in the future is building tools around it. Like, why could we build, and especially right now with generative AI and all this stuff, like, why couldn't we build a chat around what I curate? And basically you could ask questions like, if I create content on some system design blog post about Meta to replace some database for something else, you could chat on these documents and you could chat on the created content from the newsletter. Why not? It would be super cool to have, because
Yeah.
we have a lot of these deep dives and articles, but I agree that sometimes summarizing them and interacting with them to get real knowledge when you need it is super important.
Yeah.
So I would like to do that. I would like to make it maybe more personalized. So if you want just to have the section on news or just to have the section on trends and have more of them, right, that you could do it. And I know some newsletters are doing that already, which are shifting from static content to all the viewers have the same content to more dynamic, and you choose what you want, top repos for the week, stuff like that. And also, I want to have way deeper deep dives on specific topics, like, I don't know, multi-threading, deep dive, what it is, how to do it in a couple of languages, and have like this kind of long posts that also are published on a different day. So I would love to expand it like that. And it's basically my place to share what I learn about, what I find valuable, and what can provide value to people reading it too.
Yeah, you have like a very amazing vision about it. Like this is the most important part. Like because all the guys who have newsletter on LinkedIn and like obviously all of them, because I've talked to a lot of people, like they started like 1 year ago or 1.5 year ago, but like you have like a very good vision on like interacting with the articles, having a separate sections. I think TLDV also, like TLDR, they also have this, like you select like the segments, like this
Yep.
is what I'm interested in, and then you get the blog post related to that. So I've seen like
Yeah.
quite some platforms, but they are like very huge big platforms, like sort of they are doing it, but it is very good. Like obviously you personalize the content for the people rather than showing them all the stuff. So
Yeah.
that is a good approach, I must say. And
We'll see. I'm
yeah,
excited about
yeah.
it.
And I would say, like, for other people, like, who are, still afraid to start their newsletter. So you don't have to actually think about, posting daily or posting weekly. I must say that if you have something good in your mind, obviously all the software engineers, we are solving different sort of problems. Like, someday we have some custom solution we have to make for that specific use case. You do that, because in your company as well you will do some sort of documentation on how you have done that and what are the other alternatives.
Yep.
Then use that, just restructure it so that you're not leaking company information and stuff. Apply
Exactly.
that on some other scenario and then just publish that newsletter. This is like the most important thing, that's why like all these people who are publishing newsletter, all these software engineers in specific on LinkedIn, they are like growing very fast because they are actually posting about stuff, what they are actually doing. They're not posting like a
Yep.
small 1 or 2 page blog post that actually does like how to set up this technology. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is actually like a very detailed one, and it, when you actually read that, it delivers like a lot of value, because the other person might have implemented that in like 2 3 months, and then they
Yeah.
in some scenario, and then they actually write a blog post, summarize it. So it delivers a lot of value. So I must say that, follow
Yeah.
these blog posts as well. And if you are scared to start one, then like don't be scared, just start one. Don't think about the frequency, just write.
Yeah, I on this one I think you're totally right, and I want to recall the meme. I don't know how is the template code, but like to people that really want to start that, and it was me a couple of years ago, and are like, no, I won't hold it, or no, nobody's gonna care about my stuff. Um, the important part is you start with having the beginner mindset of I'm just gonna write. I'm just gonna write once a day, or once every 3 days, or once a week if you don't have the capacity, but just start something. um, and then I am subject to that too, and I think a lot of people like you think there's tons of optimizations of stuff to do, to be able to be an amazing writer. And yes, there are some, like be clear, be actionable, and also have checkers on what you write and everything, fact checks and everything. But the other part of the spectrum, when you reach that and when you see the big writers on LinkedIn and on Medium as well, they just write as well, and they just, as you said, write about stuff they're doing, and that can provide value to the reader. In the end, the question you want to answer is how to provide value to the reader. And as long as you can do that and you're sharing experience without any confidential data or anything that you cannot
Yeah,
share, then it's value for everyone and you will grow from there. So yeah, totally
yeah,
agree.
yeah, that is right. And in your perspective, like what is the key element, other than for a software engineer, other than like writing code, and soft skills, because everybody's talking about, you know, soft skills, like developers should have soft skills, and they talk about like coding aspect. What is the
Yeah.
other aspect other than that? Like, what is the aspect that a software engineer must have?
Yeah, I think that's a really great one because what we see on social media usually is like to be a great software engineer, you need to code a lot or you need to have a lot of soft skills. And
Yeah.
first, these are not like different, right? There's stuff that intertwine and interact with each other. But I think there's a lot more to that as well. And I think it's a bit similar to being like a captain of a ship in uncharted waters. It's not about knowing, you know, how to steer or how to code or how to fix some things. It's also about how you manage it, your ability to navigate waters, communicate with your crew, and keep the morale high, right? And I know that personally, I value this a lot because every time I go and go to the stand up with my team, I'm always super happy, always saying good morning, making sure everyone is fine. So I think it's a lot about leading with empathy, collaborating effectively, and making sure that everyone's voice is heard as well to come up with the best solutions. And this is super important because there's people that are more shy, less shy, more introvert, more extrovert, and you want to hear every voice that you have in the room to make sure that you're not forgetting something or you're not you know, skipping something on a trade-off for designing a solution or something like that. The other aspect to this is that um, you need to assume positive intent in discussion as well, because we're all like humans and we all have great ideas and we need to like trust and build that trust together so that we can solve the problem. Another aspect to that as well is I think being a good dev is basically being a good problem solver. This is more to a technical part of things, but in the end, it comes down to understanding that you should be customer obsessed when you have a problem. It's a business problem. It has product requirements, right? And what is the simplest way that you can solve that problem even without code, right? It can be code, it can be without code, but and most of the times it will be with code when it comes to complex problem, but still there's some possibilities that it might not. If your product manager asks for some quick implementation or something, you might just get around with drafting an Excel sheet, doing some calculations, and just having the result. If he asks for a more flexible solution or something that he can play around on some interface, then yeah, maybe you need to design something. But I think having that or was it before and as well a product focused mindset. In the end, you should be focused on the product you're working for. How does it deliver value, right, for the customers?
Yeah.
I think that's key. And one other aspect as well I would love to talk about is that you can when you are coding and when you have this like high intensity phases where you need to deliver that because you need to code, you need to understand the components and everything. You can't code around like 14 hours a day and expect to be sharp. I think like keeping fit, hitting the gym, doing
Yeah.
sports, whatever you like in the end, and just taking regular breaks is really, really important to stay motivated. I can seriously notice, and I think everyone can when you have like days where your sleep is off, or you slept less, or you slept actually more, but in different hours, right? And I think on that mindset um, is your compass as well. Like it's how you react, you know, when the wind changes directions as well. Not so much how you set the ship in the first place, because we all start from different positions. But especially here at Amazon, like things move so fast. There's sometimes pressure to deliver, and you've got to have that mindset of resilience and the drive to keep learning, adapting, and agree to push through challenges. And that comes with, as I said, the mindset and also the part of you being healthy and feeling good in your body and in your mind, right?
Yeah, that is true. Because in software engineering, it's not like all the time you will have like same set of like task and same set of pressure.
No.
Like in some other jobs, it can be like you are working as like some electrical engineer and you have like the same set of task every day, or like some support
Yeah.
engineer, you have the same routines you have to follow. In that, like software engineering, it is like sometimes you're working on a sprint, it is not very critical, and you can like actually like do work with very ease and you don't have much pressure. But sometimes there's like a bug in the production environment and you have to fix it like
Yes.
very quickly. And you are also like, you know, there's too much pressure as well, like a lot of people asking you as well. So at that time you need to actually understand the problem. You need to be calm first and then understand the problem
Yep.
and then start working on it, rather than just try to fix it and break few more things. And I have like a lot of things that you have mentioned, like it's obviously about like it's a mix. If you want to be a good software engineer, you also need to be very motivated. And like
Yeah,
as you mentioned, like take small breaks. I have talked to Richard previously on my podcast. He emphasizes a lot on that, like what are the different
yeah,
ways, taking care of your health, what is imposter syndrome, how to overcome
yeah,
it, and these things. Because software engineers doesn't, like, they don't realize these things exist. And sometimes they're thinking that, I'm not good enough, and I'm actually, maybe I
yeah,
have this position and I don't deserve it. So it
yeah,
is very important that you actually, know that I am capable of this. Plus you keep yourself motivated, and you keep setting up some new goals, right? Like, you,
yeah,
okay, after 2 years I want to be, like, project manager, or like, head of this particular team in Amazon, like, and then after
yeah,
that I want to be like this and this. So you have some ladders to climb all the time, so you're, looking forward to that, rather than just, getting, thinking about, like, yo, this, like, I'm doing a lot of stuff, this is a boring job and stuff. Because in
yeah,
software engineer, I
definitely.
feel like, once you start working in this industry for like 5 6 years or 7 years, then like some guys, they lose their motivation. They say like it is
Yeah,
too much hectic. In the start it was okay because I was young, but now, I have kids, or like
mhm,
XYZ, and then like
yeah,
it's not the case for me. I can do the project management or this thing. But like, yeah, they get like sort of demotivated from that. So it's very
yeah,
important, just like, keep setting up
yeah.
goals.
I agree. I agree. And like transitioning to that topic on staying motivated and trying to, maximize productivity, but even if I don't like that term, because I think productivity is found and retained based on everyone. But I think on that, like something that really helped me on and this is on my job and also my personal side projects and stuff. I think choosing projects that align with your long-term goals and what you want to do ultimately is super important. Now, the hard part to this one is there's a lot of people here that would say, I don't know what I will do, and I don't know what I want to do in 20 years. And that is a really hard question. For that, I think I sat down a whole weekend, literally doing nothing but trying to figure out what I want to do in the future, what is my long-term aspirations and goals. Um, and where I want to be like in 10 years, the traditional question, where you will be in 15 years, where you will be in 5 years. And these are really, really complicated to answer when you're a student, even more than where I am right now. But they're also complicated when you are in your career and you're progressing, right? And this thing of choosing projects that align with your long-term goals, it sounds stupid, but it's not because it really gives you clarity. It gives
Yeah,
you a direction way more than, I need to achieve this by then. Some people are great in functioning that way. I am not that much, but I believe in the fact that you have a direction and you have a way to go. And that's way more important than just having a goal, because in the end, there's this also a goal fallacy. Basically, when you reach a goal, most people are like, I reached it. Now what?
yeah,
And the thing is, like, if you don't have this long-term vision over it, you can burn out really quick because you'll reach a goal, even like maybe a lot of money or something, but you're like, what next? And I don't know why I'm doing this.
yeah,
So I believe in that. I'm still quite young, so I believe in that, and that's why I set up some long-term goals. And I think this smart goals, like specific, measurable, and all that, is also a good way of mindset. But more on that, like breaking them down, think about this clearly without code around it, but just really focus 100% on that. And I think that's super important to know where you want to go. And
yeah,
one thing that helped me a lot as well on this point is creating a routine. I really love routines and like I would say stuff that I do on schedule on the week or in the month. Try to eliminate distractions. That's I think we can talk about that a bit, but
yeah,
your focus is literally limit as if it was money. It's super
yeah,
important now. Um, we're trying to. I mean, a lot of things are trying to steal your focus, and for sometimes it's fine to be distracted on something if you're resting, but it's important to realize as well that focus is your first currency. When you have a task, if you focus for 1 hour on it and it should
yeah,
take an hour, you're gonna deliver it. If you focus 30 minutes two times, you're going to take more than 2 or 3 hours because you have this context switching. So distractions are a big thing as well, and I'm always trying to protect that. Personally, I think it works well. Um, yeah, on this as well, like time management techniques works super well, but it needs to match your own working style. I've tried a bunch of stuff, like all the gurus about productivities and stuff like, and what really works for me is trying to time block things in my day and plan it the day ahead. It's simple,
Yeah.
but it really works. And in the end, the advice I want the viewers to have here is you have to find what works for you. We can take a week, test 4 or 5 approaches over a month, and see what gives the best result. It could be more than a week because sometimes it's not enough to see, or it could be less. It also depends on how you plan things. But I think these time management techniques are really, really important. I think like multitasking is a bit
Yeah.
broken, I would say. Sometimes it
People
could
talk
work.
about it a lot, like, multitasking is so
Yeah.
good. You need to have that capacity to multitask. You're working on one thing, and then on the side you're also maybe managing some other thing on the side. And but like, obviously it's not a good approach. Obviously, multitasking in that way, that you're focusing on one thing and then maybe you're managing some guys, that is okay.
Mm,
But like, you're working on two tasks or three tasks at the same time is not like, I wouldn't recommend it, like, and nobody nowadays recommend this approach. And from
yeah.
the things that we are discussing right now, I wanted to ask, like, for a software engineer, how they can manage side projects. Because obviously, every
Yeah.
software engineer, they have some side projects. They may be doing some freelancing, or they may be working on a project. There's some idea they want to build, and how to manage that, because it gets very
Yeah.
tricky. So yeah.
Yes, I think for me the time that you have is the most valuable things because you can choose how you spend it with your family, with your relatives, or your closest friends, your partner. But time is super important, and that's why balancing side projects can be hard. But basically, the trick that I found, and I think works really well for me. Yeah, it's a topic I value a lot, maintaining
Mhm.
work-life balance. And actually, on that, like Jeff Bezos has a strong opinion on this. I think he said once that he doesn't really see the value of the concept life balance because that, I mean, work-life balance, because that would imply that both are the same, your life and work. And I think there's people that might put more value on work than their personal projects, and people are doing the opposite, and it's totally valid as well, right? It's how you in the end deliver value for the company you work for, and how you know you're delivering value for your side projects. But on that matter more deeply, I think balancing side projects with a job starts there. It starts about how to define that boundary between your job and what you do outside of your job. And
Yeah.
as long as you have a healthy boundary that your employer is fine with, that you are fine with, and that you see your side projects that you're trying to have are also fine with in a way, then you're on a really great path. What I do personally, concretely, is allocate specific times for it in the week. I have a couple of side projects ongoing, the newsletter, some creative coding that I'm doing on the side, as well building some, I mean, sharpening my skills, building some stuff with new frameworks that come out. I'm always trying to test stuff, even though I know like new stuff tends to fade out until it doesn't. And this is where I know I can learn about the concept. But allocate specific times for it in the week. And because you have that line that you really well define of when you are working and when you are not, then it should become easier to know when you have time for a side project or when you don't. Um, and I think something that can work as well, and I've seen some of my friends working well, is allocate specific days for specific side projects. If you have 3 nights in a week you can work on, and you have two side projects, well, you might put to the first 2 nights on the first side project because it maybe has more importance, or you might do and then allocate the third night for the second type project, or you just might alternate whatever suits you best. That
Yeah.
technique, for me, it's quite okay. I prefer to have it more flexible, and this is totally personal, but I've seen that working well. We had already talked a bit about that, but like
Yeah.
sitting breaks and going to the gym or sport or whatever physical activity that gets you going, it's super important. I can really notice the days where I work from home and I don't go to the gym or don't have a walk or don't have something in a break, my mind is just like all over the place. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm tired.
Yeah.
And it's hard to reset and, have that motivation back. Even though you value the side project, just physically you're a bit drained. And I think that's super important is life hygiene, right? I really love to hang out with my friends, my family, but
Yeah.
you have to also to be aware and mindful of your like battery in a way, your social battery, your health battery. And yeah, to wrap up on this, like setting small achievable milestones for your side projects is also good. You have to be careful about not like overdoing this. If you set like 20 milestones for like, I don't know, delivering a feature in your side project, that might be too granular. And you might say, oh, I did 5 of them out of 20. I should congratulate myself and that's it. It can be, but the important part is setting small goals that you can achieve and celebrating on them and moving on, moving on, moving on, and having that long-term vision around it. Because if not, you
Yeah.
lose a bit the focus and the sights, right? But yeah, consistency and clarity are super important on that. Consistent on your side project. If you are on it for a few months, you put the work, it will work. If it doesn't, it's that your vision was a bit biased on it, or if you didn't really want to do it, or the actual thing you wanted from it, for example, money, was not the correct proxy at the beginning. So I think that's super important. Consistency and clarity on what you want to do. And it's really hard to be clear on your goals. It's really hard because they change a lot. You see some stuff, you're like, I want this. You don't know if you want it because you really want it or because some other psychological effects. So I think being clear and always trying to reassess, is this the right thing for my long-term vision? Do I really want to do this? Is super important. It sounds a bit like, cliche advice, but for me, it's really important. So that's what I want to propagate here to the viewers.
Yeah, that is some great advice, because it is always very difficult for all the people I talk to. They have difficulties in managing side projects. Like personally, how I do it, I have like uh divided my day into several different sections. Like from this
Yeah.
time to this time, I will focus on that. After that, like even if the work is not done, I will just put a full stop, and then we'll start working on this particular stuff, and then from this to this. So the whole 24 hours is segmented. Even I have to spend time with the family or go out or something, that is also like pre-planned. So it can be a case, because in the software engineering in this market, you are working with like a lot of different companies and different stuff you are working on in
Yeah.
parallel. And then because of that, you sort of sideline your family or sideline your friends. So you need to actually create like some sort of schedule for that as well.
Yeah.
Because guys like me or you or some other guys, we love a lot about coding stuff and doing stuff. We like in the process we forget that these things are also very important. We cannot neglect
Yes.
it. So that is a very important. And the other aspect is like uh, there's a quotation from Jim Rohn. He says that if you
Hmm.
work hard on your basically on your job, so you will make a living. But if you
Yeah.
work hard on yourself, you will make a fortune. So the
Yeah.
concept
It's
is that,
beautiful.
yeah. So the concept is like, obviously, if you're working hard on your job, it's not like I'm saying that don't work hard on your job. You work
Yeah.
hard on your job, be loyal. If you have like you have to work from this 10 to 6, work on that. Don't work on other projects during that time. But if a person is just working hard for their job, and he's working continuously for 5 years, and then there's another person, he's doing the work done for the company, but after 6 he's writing a newsletter or doing another like part-time job or doing
Yeah.
some other open source contribution and stuff, because he's working on improving his skill. I can bet
Yep.
you both of the guys after 5 years, there will be like a very big difference. So the person who
Yeah.
is loyal to the company and he's thinking like, I'm just focused on company work, and he will be like this, and the other person might get like very good salary and like have better impression, and a lot of things can be better. So this is something also very important that you have to
Yeah.
keep that in mind.
On that topic, I think you're right, and I see it the same. But I think it's what is really important is that you define that. If you want to work hard for 3 years at a company, 20 hours a day, it's your choice, but you have to be aware of the trade-off, right?
Yeah,
You have to be aware it's hard to allocate time for side projects, for your own health, because 20 hours a day is a lot, for your family, for your friends. And it's a trade-off you can take, but you have to be aware of the consequences and you have to like wear in, I would say like the trade-offs of that. It's basically a software engineering decision. It's a trade-off
yeah,
again. And you did one quote. I want to quote one that really stick with me. The only people I will remember that you worked extra hours on the weekends and extra hours in the day at your job are your kids, right?
yeah,
Because a job is a job. It's super important to be loyal to a company. It's super important to deliver value. But in the end, you have to take control of your own time and be aware of what it implies, right? So it is
yeah.
up to you to define if you want to work hard on that job for a few months, for a few years, even for more. And it's fine if you take that trade off that way. but it's your decision, and I think you're right here that you need to be aware of that when you make those trade-offs.
Yeah, that is true. And let's talk about the generative AI. Like, what's the
Yeah.
impact of generative AI on software engineering field? Like, tell us about that.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about that. I think it's something we all know and see stuff on social media. It's a great technological advancement. I wouldn't say like a lot of people say, oh, it's a new internet and everything. No, I think it has nothing to do with that. Internet allowed us to have this podcast at first, so it's really more breakthrough from before. I think it's neither like one or zero for generative AI. It's not something that's it's gonna replace us in 2 years because it's going too fast, or is not useful at all. It's bullshit or stuff like that. Because there's both views. There's also the view of, I want to quote this one of the CEO of Midjourney, saying that in 5 years there's gonna be no devs anymore, which is a bit scary. But on that topic, I honestly, I think devs should not reject testing at least AI and generative AI in their workflows. I think the ones that don't will get behind ultimately,
Yeah,
because it just helps you for lot of stuff that takes time and is not that complex in terms of like mind capacity, if I would say, right?
yeah,
So yeah, I can quote here a couple of things that I find in my workflow are helped by generative AI. First one, developer experience, like basically generating code for tests, for data, or just like simpler way to write automations, or to experiment something. The other day I was with one of my colleagues. We wanted to experiment some metrics in CloudWatch because some expression we were doing was not correct, and we wanted to check that the next time we deploy the code and it wasn't testable with unit tests at that moment, would work. So what did we do? We went to the console. We created a Lambda function, passed in an expression, and made sure the call was correctly in the return on 200 response. But again, creating that Lambda function from scratch would take you, what, 20 minutes in Python, executing it, making sure there's no errors or stuff like that. I did a super simple prompt in GPT-4. The Lambda was there. I tested it in 30 seconds, literally.
oh,
So again, this is not something that will change entirely, but it allows, I would say, to shift your focus to stuff that are more complex by nature. And I think that's the first area, like developer experience and being able to go faster on those things. The second would be software quality. And this one is to take a bit in grain of salt, because sometimes the code output, it depends on the model, depends on your prompt, depends on a lot of stuff. Sometimes the code is not great, but sometimes it's quite good. And I know I've been experimenting times where I was coding something simple on my side projects. And here I'm mostly talking on my side projects part of things, but I was coding something simple in JavaScript. I had this idea on how to do it. And basically, I was using GitHub Copilot, I will talk about a bit. And the code generator was like, okay, great. That works super great. And probably my implementation would have been a bit more, I would say, less clean or something like that. So I think software quality is something that could, in some very specific scenarios, be improved. The other part, I think, is more on the product business side of things as well for devs. I think semantic search, dominated the space for a long time. When you search for something, it compares with a bunch of variety of algorithms we know and are still quite old, but still quite exciting. And now we have a bunch of other use cases like RAG, retrieval augmented generation, agents that can be composed and do stuff on their own, custom models that are fine-tuned for specific tasks. So I think it really opens up areas of experimentation that weren't there before because we couldn't do that with machines and with code, right? So I think that's also a big one, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of startups that would agree with me that are in that
yeah,
space right now. How to retrieve documents faster and with more context, vector database, all of that we talk about a bit more. But I think this is a great use case. The last one I had as well was ways of working. I think this is also will be subject to a lot of change in the future, and it already is. Like for example, how to organize and prioritize tasks that are quite simple to understand. This could be done with AI easily now. Meeting notes, documentation, or test case like summarization or synthesis is also something super doable with AI, and I've seen successes of it being implemented too. Um, and the way to interact as well with other professions, right? Recently, Figma launched this dev mode where you can see more advanced properties on the canvas for any mocks for Figma. but like communicating between a designer and a developer is also way more easier now with AI because you can ask more specific stuff, more specific questions, and you can gain context on what the others are doing faster, right? Because these LLMs have like general context about anything in the jobs, and of course it depends on what they ingested and what you're working on. But I think these are really, really exciting applications. And this is only text. Like there's image models that are super powerful. Sora from
Yeah.
AI that was just announced that I think will really shape this year in terms of video. Again, there's a lot of things to, and like people are skeptic. I can understand that because some videos are like, no. But the thing is, we've never seen something like this before, being from a
Yeah.
prompt of text to going to a small ad. You can do this with Sora, with some stuff that is not that complicated. So I think that's
Yeah.
super, super exciting. And I want to highlight as well. I'm super excited about the technology, as you can see, but there's also some drawbacks, right, that we need to solve as engineers. There is cost, latency. Latency is hard to predict because it depends on the prompt. It depends on a lot of stuff more than just network communications and stuff. Being consistent in the prompt, prompt injection that can be dangerous, confidential data, how to compose tasks between agents. These are challenges that we'll need to solve, but I believe are super interesting.
Yeah.
Interacting with different modalities in the data, right? If you're on Slack, you might interact with some piece of I don't know, PowerPoint, then you some piece of code and some piece of document, but this has different modality, right? Text, image, and conversations. So yeah, proprietary data, open source, and all those regulations. It's hard and there are difficult problems, but I think these use cases are really, really exciting, and I think that we those problems to solve are really worth solving.
Yeah, I think it is like every day it is getting better and better. Like as you mentioned about the Copilot X, right? It is so powerful.
Mm.
Sometimes you feel like, it is reading your mind. You start writing the code and it gives you like
Yeah,
actual algorithm. Like, oh, I haven't like sometimes I add a comment before like writing the code, then from the
exactly.
comment, Copilot understand it and I just have to press tab. But sometimes
Yeah,
it has happened with me, like I'm writing something and I haven't added like any comment because I don't want like Copilot help. And then it automatically provided me like I have written like 1 or 2 lines and it automatically provided me the next 50 lines. And I was like, oh, how
yeah,
the Copilot knows about this because
yeah,
it is reading the context and everything. So it
yeah,
actually, and sometimes it is wrong as well. So this is the
yeah,
important. A lot of people like new guys, they think like, okay, AI provided this is right. So you need to have the product knowledge. You need to have the coding, whatever coding language it is. You need to have that
yeah,
knowledge. You need to have the knowledge of the problem you are solving. Then the GPT gives you that answer, or like Copilot X. You need to know that, oh, this is right, because then you need to understand that syntax and dry
yeah,
run. And same in like I have used recently, like I've created some architecture diagrams on draw.io and lucid charts, and I put it on GPT-4. Now it has the option to upload an image and you can ask about it. I said,
yeah,
okay, this is the architecture diagram of this XYZ feature. Just give me a complete description of all the resources utilized and stuff.
yeah.
So it provided
Search
me a,
for them, summarize
yeah.
them. Yeah, it's endless. It's
So,
really cool.
so it was very good. Like I was creating some documentation for my company, and I created just the diagram, and that was like a complex diagram. So I give it to GPT, and the whole description of that diagram, all the resources used, all of that, it was like almost pixel perfect. And like there, some of the services
Yeah,
the GPT didn't get, so I just provided I am also using this. But like you need to know like how to actually use it, just learn from other people, from YouTube videos and stuff. And it's not
yeah.
about like, losing your job. It's about like when the
No.
internet comes in, like as you mentioned, like the mid journey person saying like after 5 years there will be like no developers. That is something that I would say, like this is something that they say that
Yeah,
to break the internet and get more publicity.
yeah.
But like the truth is that when the internet comes, so a lot of people think that they will lose their job. Basically it
No, they
shifts
will
them.
shift.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a shift that previously they are writing on a paper all the expense and this, and then it was on their typing. So it's like a
yeah,
shift in the job. So
yeah.
it will
Exactly.
be the same in the AI market and generative AI, all of that. That instead of
Yeah,
us working directly like in the VS Code writing everything ourselves, like right now as well, like then it will be like just giving prompts and dry running it and like fixing it, and it's working. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I totally see that coming, and probably we'll have other episodes, and we'll be like, you remember when we talked about this? Now, like
Yeah.
a keyboard is not a thing, or something
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, I think it would be a major shift, and things have to go step by step. But I really do think for the people who are skeptical watching us, just try
Yeah.
something, and don't give up because you put a prompt that is one sentence, you didn't get what you want. Prompting is a real thing, and we can talk about this a
Yeah.
bit later. But prompting is super important. Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. Maybe, later in the time, maybe 2, 3 years afterwards, people are, they are wearing this Apple Vision Pro glasses and they're coding,
Yeah.
thinking about it. They're like, okay, I am thinking about this algorithm, and then it's like done.
Yes.
And they're thinking, no, 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 remove this part, comment out this. And I don't know, what are the possibilities? Even if you think about it, you
Yeah.
will be like, there are like endless possibility here. And yeah,
Yeah.
so can you tell like some of like more practical use cases or like different scenarios you have used generative AI? We have discussed a lot of them, but like if you have any more scenarios, you can tell them.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to share. I think this is like one of the most like valuable part as well on this, and I want to expose like some of the things I use and I think are really valuable. I think the first one we already talked about it, GitHub Copilot. It's
Yeah.
really, really powerful. As you said, sometimes you don't have to write a comment. It already knows what you want to do, and it feels like it reads your mind. And of course,
Yeah.
it's not. Like the architecture of LLMs and the context and everything is made for that, but the same way we were saying, yeah, go on Stack Overflow because somebody has solved that problem before. It's just the same thing here. It's just that the solution is generative in the IDE, but it's the same thing here. The solution has been solved, so that's why the code appears as if it was out of your mind. But no, it was just a problem that was solved by someone else somewhere, right? Um, so I think in on Copilot, more practical tip as well is the more you write with it and the more like you prompt for something specific, the better it can be.
Yeah.
Um, have really specific examples where I was doing creative coding in JavaScript and computing some functions to do distances from points or compute shiftings between shapes or index intersections between shapes. And if I ask like find the intersection between two shapes and then type tab, it was either generic, either doing something that is not scalable. But if you already create almost a docstring of your function and then ask for it to do it and shift through the solutions, then usually you find something that is quite good and you can start with, right? Um, so yeah, I think it's not a magic win, but it's really good for simple cases or cases that where you can trust it. Of course, you can always review it and you should always review it, but I think
Yeah.
it's really powerful for that. Outside of that, I think the best way to like either develop a feature or debug certain situations, you could also really use AI. Like there's, as I said, but outside of just code, like how to solve, I don't know, the fact that my messages are not arriving in this SQS after, I mean, are not processed by Lambda after being in SQS. This is a problem probably 1,000 people had with AWS. It has been solved. You can go on the internet and search it, right? You can ask more recommendation. You can ask, why is this happening? You can ask again, why is this happening to go deeper? And you can really converse with those agents and understand deeply problems or ways to fix them. So I think GPT-4 here, whether it be with OpenAI or other solutions like Bing or other ones, are really good at explaining that and making sure you understand the problem you're solving. I also found Claude from Anthropic, Claude V2, to be amazing because it has a huge context window. I think it's 120K or 200K, so you can ingest super, super deep documents, meeting notes, recordings, even maybe this podcast we can try where we can find
Yeah.
from there and we can ingest it. So Claude is really amazing because it has this long context. Now Google announced a new model that has 1.5 million tokens and 10 million tokens in research development as well. I did a post on LinkedIn last Tuesday on this. And it's insane. And I think evolution in terms of the context window and how the model selects things from the context window is super important because
Yeah.
ultimately we don't realize it, but we have a lot of context around us when we process and do a decision. So yeah, a lot of the advice I give as well is, as we already super quickly touched, spending time on your prompt. When you have a task, you know you can reuse your prompt, or you know that a prompt is super critical, which it is in most cases. Spend time developing it. Have some prompts that summarizes articles. If you just say summarize this article in 5 bullet points, it might be good, average. But if you know the article is about specific topic, I have several prompts that are literally a couple of lines long that are really good, are summarizing and adding the right amount of context. Again, this might be personal, right? But
Yeah.
the advice stays the same. Like having good prompts is super important. In the example I shared before of my friend and I developing this lambda to test these metrics, um, I did a prompt that was 12 lines or 14 lines, something like that. It took me 30 seconds. He did a prompt that was 5 seconds, literally asking the thing, create a lambda to do X. My prompt gave me the answer directly. I could literally paste it in CloudWatch console, and sorry, in Lambda console and test it.
Yeah.
His one couldn't because the context wasn't there, some stuff were missing.
Yeah.
So it's really important. It has a great difference. It goes as extreme as AI is not useful to AI is really useful for certain stuff, right?
Yeah.
There's promptingguide.ai that I really like. It has a lot of tips on how to prompt not only text models but also image models. I advise as well a lot of people to use snippets. So for that, I use Alfred as a launcher. A snippet is basically, for the ones that don't know, you input some string like ABC and it expands to another string, which is great for prompt. If you have a prompt for summarizing documentation, you might name it like docsum. Type docsum on your keyboard, it expands it to this whole prompt that you can directly paste. So you go faster prompting and basically inputting stuff into GPTs, because most of the stuff, as I said, is inputting context on it, and that takes time when you type and everything, right?
Yeah.
So some stuff can be pre-filled with also query variables. If you have a snippet that has two variables that you can fill when you write it, it's way faster than writing the whole thing in the first place, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's also one really like. I think as well, one practical use case I found is specialized AI assistants or GPTs for OpenAI case. I think we've been fighting with AGI, so artificial general intelligence, for a long time now, way more than we think actually. And I think that we always found out that basically when you have an AI that is specific to something, it's really good at it, and it's hard to generalize. So these GPTs are really good. There's one on logo creation and one on image creation on OpenAI, for example. If I type on GPT-4, create an image about X, and if I type this in the GPTs that is specialized for it, it's going to be way better in this one, right? So I
Yeah.
think those agents are super important. I wanted to quote as well open source models and open platforms like Poe, Hugging Face, that allows basically to test any model that comes out and benchmark it in 5 minutes. This is super useful for people that want to build with AI. And I'm experimenting a lot on that, like what is the best model for X task? What does that mean on the leaderboard and stuff like this? So I think that that's also one use case. Practically as well, code analyzers and security bots, also good use cases to save time on reviews or manual stuff that you could be automated. One tool as well that is quite known but I really like to use is Perplexity. So
Yeah.
it's more focused on researching on the web than just like extracting it from any context or from any training data that it was trained on. So whether I do some research on some topic, um, it really helps me to learn quickly on what is the best XYZ for ABC, right?
Yeah.
And this brings me to learning. I think this is the biggest benefit outside of just code generation and developer experience to have. Crafting a prompt to learn with bullet points or to learn in a specific way is super important. If you love to learn with deep paragraphs, do a prompt that does that for any resource that you pass it in. And it's super good because you want to learn about something. You don't need to learn it super deep, build 100 things around it. Sometimes you just want to learn it a bit more at the surface level so that you can expand into more stuff later. And this is great for that. And this solves it. Literally, it solves it. Like for anything that is common on the internet, now they can browse, the GPTs also can browse internet. So you can literally pass anything and learn way faster from that. From a YouTube video, take the transcript, summarize it, dive
Yeah.
deep on something that you want. This is super great. And you learn faster because I think it evolved the learning part of things into way more than just doing the thing for 5 months and then getting some learning out of it, or watching some YouTube video or some playlist. I think this is super important to watch that, but it's also super important sometimes to skim through stuff so you can go faster to where you want, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are pretty important use cases. I want to mention as well LangChain. You can build agents with that. You can convert natural queries to query in some other systems, like give me the five employees that have the highest salary in this database instead of writing the query, which is also pretty simple because SQL is simple on that matter. You could just paste that into some agent. We do the query yourself for you, return you the results, and they can be composed like that. So LangChain is quite good, and probably just other companies working after that too. Data analysis as well with GPT interpreter as well. Right now, if you want to do some basic statistical analysis on some of your data and you don't want to pull other stuff, just put it into GPT, ask some questions on it. It can work quite well as well. Yeah, we talked about semantic search and retrieval augmented generation. There's tons of solutions for that. Pinecone, Wavy8, Quadrant. Yeah, AWS Bedrock and SageMaker are a great solution for managed AI as well. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff, and we could continue for
Yeah.
hours,
Yeah,
basically.
we can have like a separate podcast on this, like how to use generative AI. You have like a lot of knowledge on that. Obviously, like Perplexity, like which different, like there are like different options. Like there's not just like
Yeah,
GPT-4, and then in GPT-4 you can also train your own models and you can give the context, and then it's
yeah,
another thing. Plus the other tools as well. There are like a lot of tools to like on
yeah,
the Bing as well, the search engine. They have also integrated with
yeah,
AI. It's also getting popular. Previously, it was like sort of going down,
yes,
and again, it's like sort of like rising up again.
yeah,
And then this mid journey, and like there's a lot of stuff we can have. Like we can, you're right. Like we can talk on this for hours and hours, and it's like very
yeah.
interesting as well. So yeah, let's wrap it up. Like, what's your final piece of advice for the software engineers?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question, and thanks for having me. I'm really happy to have had that session. I think the one piece of advice that I see comes up a lot, and I really resonate with, is don't compare yourself to the top players in your niche, but compare yourself to yourself from the past, right? And again, this might not be new to you, but really do consider this. Um, it's easy now, with all this attention economy, and we are part of it, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and all that. Um, to compare yourself to the most famous people, the most successful people in terms of these metrics, and being like, I will never get there. But the fact is, maybe you won't, but you will get to the point where you want to go. And we all start from different places. We all have different abilities. Someone want to be better with copy. Someone want to be better with image design, with pure technical knowledge. But you have to find the way to measure your success based on metrics that you define for your goals, right? That we talked about that, and to compare yourself from yourself in the past. And you can learn from the path and advices from these, I would say, top players, because they're important. There's stuff that probably you will see in your career, and I hope that we will see as well as too. But I think you shouldn't just stick to it and try to apply it the same way, because it just doesn't work like that. And I felt that a lot before I was starting at Amazon. I was like, I would never go to SD2. I will never go to senior, either principal. And right now that I'm shifting through this, and my next step is being this, I see that it's doable, and those people are just like me, but with years ahead, right? So I think that's the mindset. I will never be able to make it. I really don't want you to have that. You can
Yeah.
make it. You will make it. And I think, like as we said already, like defining your goals and compare yourself with those goals in the future. Measure it the way you want, at the cadence you want. Um, and yeah, it's easy to say, and sometimes even trying to apply it is hard, but it's really powerful. And two things I wanted to end is, I really like this quote as well from Jeff. It's always day one. You always have time, even though it doesn't feel like it. When you feel like you're not progressing or super in a bad mood, usually time is not the issue. It's how you manage the things around it, right? And yeah, stay hungry for knowledge, stay hungry for building stuff and developing yourself, whether it is with code or something else. Stay hungry for that. And yeah, I think that would be my words of ending.
Yeah, that is some amazing advice, I must say. Like for everyone listening, you have to be hungry, you have to learn, new stuff, you have to stay motivated. And it was amazing having you on the show and talking about the software engineering, and then talking about generative AI. And yeah, it was great having you on the show, Alex.
Thank you a lot.
Yeah, and for all the listener, stay motivated and just keep working on yourself, on your abilities, and have faith in yourself. And until next time, have a nice day and take care of yourself. Bye bye.
Right?